Welcome everyone to Already Cancelled. We review TV shows here. The year is 2020, and the name of the show is Babylon 5. I'm Peter, that's Tara. This is going to be season 1, episode 8. It's called And the Sky Full of Stars. So, full spoilers for the episode as always. The premise of this one is simply that two mysterious individuals arrive on the station and kidnap Commander Sinclair and put him into the... What did they keep calling it? Because, I mean, I'll just refer to it as the Matrix probably for the rest of this, but I think they were calling it the Cybernet or something like that. It was like really 90s, like, computery wording. But I will say, though, I did really like the visual of, like... It was kind of like a Clockwork Orange sort of, like, thing on the guy's face, but it was like electricity going from his eye to the little device. It actually looks wonderfully cheesy in a way that I really appreciate. So
it's just digital images being projected into the eyes.
Yeah, it's like in Batman Forever when Jim Carrey, the Riddler's got the box thing that it's like doing the electric waves to the minds because he's stealing everyone's like credit card numbers or something. I do not remember
what you're describing. It's been a long time since I've seen that movie.
In my defense, I had to watch it last year for Batman month when we were reviewing them all, so it's relatively fresh.
Does Carrie's Riddler hold up?
Oh no.
No, all dated jokes.
That said, though, it holds up better than Tommy Lee Jones's Two-Face. So take that for what you will. But yeah, so this is an interesting episode. One of the things that I noticed as I was watching this is that there was no B plot, which is a little bit weird, actually. It's just the whole A plot. It's just, no, we're focusing on this. We're focusing on Sinclair and his missing time from the Battle of the Line, and that's what these two characters are here to try and ascertain. They think Sinclair is intentionally hiding it, and they're inside his head. They've kidnapped him and sort of go into his head, kind of.
They're inceptioning him.
Yeah, kind of.
Give some info.
He's fully aware of it, of course, you know, once they start talking to him, but yeah, that's kind of the gist of the episode. I mean, what did you feel about this one?
I thought it was okay. It's definitely like an important episode.
Yeah.
I found the villain to be acting. Like a lot of them are like this on the show, but like this one was particularly like I'll demonstrate his acting for it. It's a cold stare. His like jaw is totally clenched up, and he does the thing with his eyes. He's so evil. His eye twitches.
I was also noticing a lot of hand movement. He was very theatrical. I have to admit, I was kind of noticing this guy's acting as well, because he's sort of yelling at Sinclair like, "You must remember the Battle of the Line. I'm almost there. Damn it, you will talk." He would always really emote every sentence.
Yes, I mean, he was always shouting.
Yeah, a lot of shouting. So yeah, he's kind of the weakest element of the episode, probably.
I mean, he's kind of fun to watch.
Yeah, well, yeah, he's not like horrible to watch, but he's definitely the weakest element though, because I do think what the episode is getting at is very interesting, and what it's like teasing for the future is interesting. I think it's solid enough. This will probably be a shorter conversation just for the fact that one, there is no B plot, it is all A plot, and I do
two,
think
there is no Londo.
There's no Londo or Jakar for that matter. My two favorite characters are missing, but there is a little bit of this, and it's not that much of a problem when I'm watching it. I don't mean to say this felt repetitive in the episode, but in talking about the episode, there's a lot of the villain trying to get Sinclair to talk, and I think a lot of that just kind of blurs into one kind of summary of he shows him his dead friend from the Battle of the Line, or he yells at him, he tries to get him to talk, and obviously there's some juicy stuff. Did you remember his name's Mitchell because of the Mystery Science Theater movie named Mitchell?
That's why I said it that way.
That's what...
Mitchell.
It never occurred to me as I was watching it, but just hearing you say the name there, I went, wait a minute, that triggered something in my mind. I can't say it any
other way. I love that episode of Mystery Science Theater. I've seen it so many times. If he said like Pilot Mitchell and then Joe Tom Baker showed up, oh my god, it would be the greatest episode.
So I think what's interesting here though is that these two people, and there's some mystery as to exactly who they are, who they're working for, although there's obviously some theories presented at the end of the episode that are probably fairly accurate, is that they think that Sinclair's actually actively working as like a traitor, as a double agent for the Minbari, that he surrendered and offered to work for them. Although it does seem like he kind of like gradually believes that Sinclair just doesn't remember what happened, so he's trying to get him to unlock it in his mind. And maybe that's a critique of the story, is that I'm not really sure where that transition happens, where he seems to then believe that Sinclair needs to remember it, as opposed to
they
he's hiding
call
it.
themselves like truthers, right? Like they're part of some subreddit thread where they're trying to expose the truth of some conspiracy theory. I mean, maybe they're not wrong, because he really has missing time and stuff really did happen with the Minbari, specifically with a character on the show that we know. But they're also credited as Night 1 and Night 2, so they're like soldiers of something, protectors of something.
Well, I mean, that makes me think of a thing from DC Comics. There's like a clandestine group in DC Comics called Checkmate, and they're all referred to as like White Queen, Black Queen, White Bishop, Black Bishop, so on and so on. That's what that makes me think of. But it may be right. Maybe it's just all knights that are numbered. It may not be chess pieces.
Maybe this is kind of like a, I don't know, like a clan situation, how they all call themselves wizards and stuff.
Maybe.
These guys call themselves knights, or like they're protecting something.
Well, at the end of the episode, when Garibaldi's like theorizing who they might be, he's like, I mean, there's rumors that like they
Garibaldi,
work.
You mean that pervy guy on the show?
You could let me finish the point. Okay, say the thing you want to say about the newspaper. Now go on. You've made your pervy joke. Go on.
It's just the show continues to show us that he's a total perv. Okay, like the camera like pans over Garibaldi's shoulder and we see what he's reading, and it's a newspaper with an article. And there's lots of articles there, but I see where his eyes are. It's an article about the pros and cons of interspecies relationships.
It's an over the shoulder shot. How do you see where his eyes are?
Because I know Garibaldi. I know what he's reading.
I think
he's like, oh yeah, I love Playboy for the articles.
The more important element on this newspaper page is clearly a reference to last week's episode about the Psy-Corps.
Yeah, there's like all the stuff
the
about Psy-Corps, about the election going on, and then there's like this article in the corner about the pros and cons of interspecies relationships.
I'm just saying, look, there's no evidence in the scene to suggest that that's actually what he was focused on in that.
I think we all know what article he picked that up for.
Be that as it may. I think the importance for us, the audience, is the other stuff, because it's reinforcing these other more important ideas that the show's got. Even if Garibaldi himself is looking at the naughty bits. Anyway, so Garibaldi at the end of the episode tells us that there's rumors that, so they work for some organization that believes that there's people working against Earth and all that. They're very Earth first. They're not quite Home Guard, but it's very much along the same lines. They probably visit the same 4chan-esque website. But he also mentions that there's even rumors that it might even be from within the own government, like the government themselves actually have funded this in some way. And Sinclair even points that out when he confronts one of them. He's like, you need money to do this. Like, the way you were able to smuggle all this high-tech stuff onto Babylon 5, and like you had funds, you had backing for this.
People get some real crazy devices onto Babylon 5. They just walk through some checking place where some guy says, any fruit to declare. Then they get all these crazy machines on board.
Which technically
they probably go through our favorite character, the Mantis.
They get the Mantis probably gets them to the Black Childs, but technically the guy's doing his job. If he's there to just check for fruit, he's not finding fruit, then what do you want from him?
Hey,
not a problem.
This guy, the villain guy, was in The Prestige, and he was the maitre d' in Ghostbusters 2. I bet we would recognize him.
Oh, in Ghostbusters 2, yeah. I definitely recognize him in that if I watch Ghostbusters 2 again.
He's the Defender in The Prestige. I don't really remember.
The Defender? I don't know who that is now.
Oh, he's the German general in Enterprise. Star Trek Enterprise. Okay, I'm done.
Okay. So, the big stuff here, though, of course, is when Sinclair eventually does remember parts of what happened. He doesn't remember, obviously, what really, like, the thing that the Minbari really don't want him to remember. Clearly, he's not remembered yet, because he still doesn't know. Because he questions at the end. I mean, the end of the episode is literally him sitting saying, I have to remember, what don't they want me to know? But he does remember being taken aboard the ship. What have you seen in IMDb?
The other guy, the guy with the pointy face, he's the son of Khan in Wrath of Khan. And he's also in Next Generation, but he plays a different character. But he's the son of Khan. Oh, man. If they ever make another Star Trek movie. I mean, I know he dies in the movie, but like, Son of Khan would be an awesome title. They just need to retcon it. You were making a point?
Sinclair remembers parts of what happened at the battle line. He remembers being taken aboard the Minbari ship. He remembers the circle of hooded figures, which, I mean, I think we all just assume that's the Grey Council, because we've been hearing about the Grey Council. We see these hooded grey figures.
We already know that Delenn is senpai or something.
But even before we see Delenn, though, the point is that as soon as we see the grey hoods, we kind of assume Grey Council, because we've been hearing about them. And he has flashes of this. He has flashes of being tied up, and then he pulls down the hood and he sees someone. We don't see who it is yet, though. We could probably make the guess that it's Delenn. It's probably like it's not a.
I don't think the show's trying to hide it.
He essentially is able to fight out of the thing. He punches the guy, and he actually messes the guy's brain up. Like, because he gets punched like in the face with a tech on, he ends up being his brain gets scrambled. But when Sinclair gets up and he's running through Babylon 5, he's out of it. It's almost like he thinks he's actually still in the middle of the war, and he's just been kidnapped, and he's on a Minbari ship, and he's running around.
Yeah, he's hallucinating while he's running around in real life, shooting at people.
Yeah, so, and obviously throughout the episode, like, Garibaldi and the others have realized he's missing. They've been looking for him. They've been very concerned. They're sweeping the station.
Thanks to Delenn, actually, she's the one who brings it up. She says she doesn't know where he is. I suspect that she has some sort of watch on him, where she's like, she notices right away that he's missing and brings it up to Garibaldi.
I mean, she said they had a meeting planned, so I mean, it could just be that.
I mean, maybe. We also know that don't the Minbari have some sort of, like telepathic abilities too?
They can have. They can have telepaths, but I don't think they're all telepaths.
Well, maybe there's a little bit of something there. Who knows? I don't know. Still learning the show.
Yeah, well, I don't know, but
I think maybe there's some sort of like sense thing going on. Like, I sense danger for this person that I'm supposed to be watching.
I don't know about sensing things, but I think the important thing here for me is that it shows Delenn is clearly concerned immediately, and then later on, she's constantly going up to Garibaldi and Ivanova. She keeps coming up and asking people, "Can I help? What can I do? What's going on?" She's the one who's raising the concerns constantly. And then when Sinclair is running around and he ends up in this firefight with the long-haired dude, the second guy, when he's running away, he's out of it. And Delenn walks up to him, and this is the moment where the show chooses to show us what he saw, where he points the gun at Delenn and says, "I know you," and then we see him unhood Delenn and the Grey Council on the ship. But he doesn't shoot her. He shoots the bad guy who's behind her, and then he collapses. But the idea that she's kind of like snapped him out of it, and he just kind of like passes out, and he's out for like a day. But there's I think there's some really smart stuff in this episode where it kind of raises a couple of key themes at the start to set a lot of this stuff up. First of all, his opinion on lying gets brought up, because there's a whole, we didn't even mention this, but there's like one of Garibaldi's security officers is having gambling problems, and it's not really all that important aside from the fact that he kind of like helps the bad guys smuggle because he's like needing the money essentially. And that's
a bit important. I mean, like, they bring up, like, you understand why it's not a good idea for you to as a security officer to owe money to like anybody, because that could be a security risk for us. And the guy's like, no, but of course it's it happens in the episode, like
it happens immediately.
Exactly what's going on.
If Anthony's already made a deal at this point, he's already
yeah,
in the
you can see why that would be a problem, like having a president who has like bank accounts in China with lots of money in there. Like, it would be wrong to have that.
Whoa, hold on. How did we go from
That could
this?
be a security risk for a nation, say.
How did we go from security guys got a gambling problem to that?
It's election week.
I feel like there was maybe a couple of half steps you could have taken to get there gradually. Instead, you just took one big giant leap. You just
No, it's compromised national security. To owe money to a foreign power?
But
Seems wrong to me.
But I mean, the guy does have a bit of a face turn because he doesn't know they're kidnapping Sinclair, and later on, when he kind of maybe he sort of like figures it out, and he goes to see them and see if they have Sinclair, he actually kind of tries to like confront them about it. They just immediately shoot him. No, so it reestablishes who the bad guys are. But I mean, arguably, I do think this character's a little bit maybe again a little weaker element of the episode in that. He's kind of just there to serve this plot purpose, and he does get his little kind of like he tries to confront them about Sinclair, and he clearly doesn't. He's not okay with him being kidnapped, but it never really amounts to a whole lot beyond just I don't know. Like it sets up a couple of plot devices so Garibaldi can find him later because he's like, oh hey, this guy got money and then Sinclair got kidnapped. 2 hours later.
I do love where in that scene though where the one guy working with Garibaldi is like. Oh yeah, we checked him out. He was totally fine. He has money in his account. He doesn't know anybody. And then you see the screen, and it clearly says deposit 15 grand like, at the top. Like this guy's terrible at his job. You didn't see the large deposit?
Well, that's why Garibaldi's chief because he notices these things.
Well, it took him a little while. Like I saw it at least 20 seconds before Garibaldi said it.
Hey, look. Babylon 5, like not everyone's, gunning for that job, right? Garibaldi is the best he can do, but he's better than this other guy. He's the most qualified there. But yeah, so I do think the gambling guy's maybe a little bit of a weaker element. He's kind of just there to like offer up the other characters that like plot devices or reasons to talk about certain things. For example, Sinclair giving his little speech about lying at the start, where he talks about how. Oh, everyone, people lie for different reasons. Innocent people lie because they're scared of being blamed for something they didn't do. Guilty people lie because they've got no other choice. We have to figure out why he's lying and then, figure it out from there. And obviously, we don't really care about this guy if he's lying or not because we know he's lying. It's more about
everybody lies.
This is more about Delenn. Not that Sinclair's talking about Delenn specifically, but I think for us, the audience, I think it's because it goes almost, I think, from this scene directly to the scene of Delenn in the doctor's office. With Franklin basically just examining her and saying, oh hey, this is good for me for a baseline because I tend to only examine Minbari when they're sick already, so it's actually kind of nice to study like one who's healthy and know what the vitals are supposed to look like and that kind of thing. But they get to talk about the war, and she says, oh, you used to hitchhike on starships. It's like, yeah, I used to want to see the stars and blah blah, but then the war happened, and she asks him about what he did during the war, if he was involved, and that's again, it comes back to her seeming to be very like empathetic and wanting to know people's experiences on the other side of the war and wanting to listen to it. And he
could
says,
just be a test also.
I mean, it could be, yes, but I think you have to agree the impression we get from her is not that. It doesn't seem evil from her specifically.
No, I mean she comes across as someone almost like matronly. Like, you definitely trust her until, like, all the shady Grey Council stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I think ultimately her intentions are good. That is my instinct with her, regardless of how shady some of the elements are or what other Minbari might be wanting or feeling like. But no, this scene, she asks him like what he did in the war, and he says that he was asked to like hand over all of his notes on Minbari for bio warfare and like how to kill them and stuff like that. And she's like, well, what did you do? And he's like, well, I'm a doctor, I took an oath, so I burned all my notes. And she's very pleased about the answer, but he asks, well, what did you do during the war? And she just kind of smiles and says, that's a story for another time. So again, it neatly kind of sets up the idea that we're going to learn a little bit about that in this episode, because then we see some of like, and it's not even that new for us really, because we knew she was on the Grey Council. It's not a huge shock that she was on the ship that Sinclair was on, during his missing 24 hours. It's not a huge surprise to us. The important part here is that Sinclair's realized this, and he does know it at the end. despite the fact that he lies to Delenn, probably quite wisely, I'd imagine, especially since this other evil Minbari steps out from behind the curtain and is like, he must never know the truth or he will have to die. Satai, that was the word. There you go. Wait, did you have any thoughts on this?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's an interesting choice. We also learned that Sinclair, like, admits to being a bit racist when it comes to Minbari. Like, he really had, for a long time, he had to struggle not to, like, immediately shoot the first Minbari he saw. And it could be interpreted a little bit like he has that prejudice still when, like, even though he knows it's Delenn, he wants to hold back and not have a conversation with her about it because he still has that thing where it's just, I just don't trust him.
I don't think it's that. I think him talking about not wanting to wanting to shoot every Minbari that he saw for like the first while, that feels like a natural thing just because he was in like this violent war with them, and he literally watched his entire squad get killed by them. Like that was we see that in this episode. He watches all of his friends die. We see his friend Mitchell be killed. We see it twice in the episode actually, and I think it is funny that I just happened to watch the Next Generation episode with O'Brien, because I actually think there's a lot of similarities with O'Brien in that episode with the Cardassians, yeah, and Sinclair here. And he's not being racist, what he was not racist. It was a natural heighten of tension. I think everything he's been with Delenn since the start of this show is showing that he has moved on. He's trying to find peace with her. They're both trying to build this bridge.
Sure, but I think there's still a little bit of something there. Like, how can there not be after being at war with them and seeing your civilization get murdered over and over again?
I'm not saying that there's not, but I think him choosing not to tell her at the end here is less to do with any like leftover animosity from the war and more to do with his new suspicions of her. Now that he's seen that she was one of the people on that ship, and it's this like, you know, mysterious, like, you know, it's like he was.
Why are you lying?
Yeah, it's not the exact same thing, but it's, you know, it's like he was like drugged at a party and he has no idea what someone did to him for like, you know, this like gap of like a day. You know, he's like, I don't trust you. You did this to me. The fact that this other Minbari says, I don't
know what happened, but I know that you were there and it was a dark room and there were a bunch of people in cloaks. My arms are sore. I think I was tied up.
That would definitely be a shocking twist if it turns out just to be a bunch of kinky, like, alien probing.
It's just the eyes wide shut Minbari party at the end of the war. That's how they declare peace.
Yeah. No, I mean, I'm still really fascinated by the mystery of those two. Why does she care about him so much? Why do the Minbari care about him so much? And what about what they learned from him in this night made them surrender? Made them like end the war and stop? You know, what caused that decision? Because we still don't know. I mean, it's something that's prodded at repeatedly in this episode, and it's something that we've talked about consistently throughout the show.
Mm-hmm.
But it's still this hanging mystery.
Yeah, it's not really answered except for we know that Delenn was actually there, but even that's not like a huge reveal for us because they've been hinting at that since the gathering.
Mm-hmm. I like that we actually we went back to that old episode with the other Minbari assassins saying there's a hole in your mind. You know, that stuff's kind of like referenced, and we actually see the quick clip of it. As Sinclair's remembering that's like the sort of the first seed of doubt that he had, that there's something. It's not just that he blacked out. There's more to it than that. There's something missing. So this is a really intriguing episode. If not it's not a complete home run though. I don't think. Like I think as far as like teasing some of the big ideas of this show, I think there's been maybe more successful episodes already than this one, but. I do like a lot of what it's doing here. It's just that some of the stuff where he's in his mind and he's like trying to get him to talk just is kind of, you know, it's pretty much the same thing for a bit until it works. Where he like, you know, the guy overacts and is like, you know, think Sinclair, think, you know, you're close, aren't you? You're one of them. You betrayed your own kind, didn't you? Yada yada yada. And then
he's a very very big actor, and is it Michael O'Hare who plays Sinclair? Mm-hmm. He's pretty reserved in his acting, so they don't like match up. You can tell he's like trying to bring his acting up to the same like level of shoutiness, but it doesn't really match up. So the guy really comes off as overacting.
Yeah, I think I also like this new dynamic between Sinclair and Delenn in that they have this friendship that they've been trying to build, and they have this mutual respect, but now there's this underlying mistrust that, he feels for her, and she might start to pick up on as time goes on, in their interactions. Because even when he says here at the end of the episode, "No, I don't remember a thing," his line is very specifically a bit overly worded to sort of make it sound a bit suspicious almost. Not so much that she's immediately going, "You're lying, you scumbag," but enough that she might suspect that he's not quite being honest.
No, I don't remember a thing.
Yeah, no, it's super interesting. In fact, one of the things I liked about like her being the end of his delusion when he's going around the ship is that there is a wonderful kind of symmetry to that, or not symmetry, but like the idea that he's going around the ship and everyone he sees he's like hallucinating as a Minbari, and then a real Minbari shows up and that's what snaps him out of the illusion. I don't know. There's something kind of poetic about that idea that I kind of like. So that's what it is. We should mention actually when he first wakes up, he doesn't, before the bad guys show up and talk to him, there is kind of like an obvious dream sequence kind of thing where everyone's like absent on the ship and he's like walking around on his own. I was almost getting where is everybody vibes from Twilight Zone, as he's walking around and nothing's working,
or
no one's responding.
The bubble episode of Next Generation.
Or the bubble episode of Next Generation,
which is also very Twilight Zone for a Star Trek episode.
Yeah, Twilight Zone did come first, to be fair. So yeah, I think they all have to credit Twilight Zone as the inspiration in some way. I'm sorry, Tara, but Twilight Zone predates the original Star Trek by a good 6 years.
Well, yeah, but like, whatever. No. I mean, isn't there other like Last Man on Earth novels before Twilight Zone?
Last Man on Earth, yeah, but more like suddenly and mysteriously. I don't know. Maybe not on screen. Maybe there's books and stuff, but
maybe.
I don't know. I don't know how much these writers read.
Everyone should just credit Joseph Campbell for their story all the time.
No. It's an interesting story. I like some of the little tidbits we got from these other characters about the war, and I'm excited to see more stuff. But I did miss Londo and Shakar a little bit. I'm not going to lie. There was a slight missing of them. Also, small little tidbit is Ivanova's greatly disturbed that Garibaldi, after like they can't find Sinclair for a few hours, he's like, okay, also get some bots to like check the outside of the ship in case the body's floating around. And she's like, damn, Garibaldi. Like, that's not
glad I don't have to think like you do.
I know. I was like, and yeah, obviously he says it's just to be safe, like just in case that's what's happened. They'll find him.
In case someone threw him out of an airlock.
Yeah.
He's so calm when he says it too. Just make sure you guys check this too.
Yeah.
There's a chance he's floating out there with all our poop.
That's why he's chief, because he makes these tough decisions.
Yeah.
Tough decisions. Whilst he's testing weird alien rocks as aphrodisiacs. Not at the exact same time, obviously, but
I don't know. I don't trust him anymore.
Yes, there you go. That's been Babylon 5 episode 8. Let us know what you thought of this one in the comments below. Like and subscribe, all that stuff. You can, of course, get us on the Twitters at mailed_fuzz for channel updates. You can support us really simply and easily by hitting the old like button on YouTube. It is super helpful and helps keep all the content coming. Tara, why don't you tell them about Patreon?
Why, yes. If you like our show and our reviews, please check out our Patreon page. It's patreon.com/milefuzztv. And if you donate as low as $1 per month, you will get access to bonus episodes of other shows we do, including the ACE, the Atomic Cinema Experiment, which is our science fiction movie review show. And if you donate $5 per month, you will get access to shows early, like Babylon 5 reviews 1 week early. So please check that out. Thank you.
I wasn't listening to all of it, but the last part was right. So
yes,
it's a good sign. So
I
yes,
screwed up a lot.
Thank you very much for joining us. We always appreciate it. Keep watching Babylon 5. Just don't give away the home world.